Life is a game meant to be played, not to be understood. Because if you understood fully what life was about, what your purpose on earth here was, objectively, and why all of this was made, you wouldn't want to play the game. The mystery is what makes this game so compelling, what makes the arguments so ferocious, what makes the debate so heated. Because without the mystery, without the bewilderment, the amount of wonder we have for our universe, for who we are, for why we're here, for who made us, if anyone did, then the game would be fun. The game is fun because of this phenomena. That's why we play it. And I believe it's why God created us in the first place. I believe God created us because God wanted to experience a perfect paradox. And so he imagined it. He imagined a perfect paradox where everything is equally real and unreal, where everything is equally true and false, equally manifest and unmanifest. Everything is simultaneously happening at the same time on both sides of the coin, the light and the dark, the good and the bad, death and life. It's simultaneously happening, and that's why, of course, you have the symbol of the circle. That's what this life is. But I believe God sent us here because he wanted to experience that paradox, because where he's from, who he is, or whoever he is, what it is, he cannot experience what we experience here on earth. He's perfect. He's omnipresent. He's omniscient. He can experience it all at once. The amount of overwhelm that would be, no human could deal with that. We're just not meant for it. But that's why he came down here, is because there is beauty in limitation. There is beauty in ignorance. There is beauty in not knowing exactly what to do, where you're supposed to go, at what cadence you're supposed to get there. There's beauty in that. As Achilles said in the movie Troy, the gods envy us. And it's true, because the gods do envy us. God envies us because only we can experience the duality. Only we can experience both sides of the coin as separate entities. God sees it all for what it is. It's one thing. It's one fundamental thing. It's one band of energy. That's all it is. But we get to experience the duality, and that's where the beauty lies. That's why God envies us, and that's why he came down here to be in us. He came down here to be in us because he wanted to experience this. And it's so fascinating because this is the exact reason why we have all of the myth that we do. We need the myth. And the myth is baked into the cake. Like I've said already, the mystery of life is what makes it so appealing. And that's where the myth comes from, because you have to explain it. You have to try to, in some way, shape, or form. And I believe everyone's right to some degree. I believe everybody's looking at the same painting, but they have their nose pressed against it instead of being backed away, looking at the entire thing. If you were at an art gallery, you probably wouldn't want to slam your head against an Andy Warhol. No, you'd probably want to step back behind the ropes, and you'd want to gaze at it, and you'd want to take it all in, digest it. You want to eat it up, consume it. You'd want to evaluate it, see what it was worth, see the truth of it all, see it from corner to corner, edge to edge, line to line. I believe everybody's looking at the same painting. They're just too close to it. And that's baked into the cake of duality. That's baked into this universe. In the three-dimensional, it's nearly impossible to see the whole thing, because once you do, you're not in the third dimension anymore. You're not in it. The 3D is good and bad, left and right, dark and light, red and blue. That's what it is. And once you see beyond that, you're no longer in the 3D. And that's when life gets really fun. And that's when you start connecting with God's creation. That's when you start opening up to it. And really, you start to melt into the painting. So instead of having your nose pressed up against it, smelling it, sniffing it, or instead of even being far away and taking it all in, gazing at it from a distance. You're actually being soaked into it. You're melting into the painting. The colors of your soul, your character, become one with the painting itself. And that's through the act of play. That's when you start playing in your environment. That's where you start testing and toying and tinkering. That's when you start having fun. When you start having conversations you wouldn't normally have. When you start speaking in ways that you could never speak, using words you've never thought of, never even known you knew. That's what happens when you start to melt into the painting. You start to become one with the game of life, this comedy, this masquerade party, where everybody's playing various roles at various times, cycling, in, out, life, death, over and over and over again. You begin to become part of it. And when you become part of it and eventually get absolved into the whole, well, that's when it gets really, really interesting. Because when you're in it, you no longer have fear. You no longer feel pain in any real degree. You do, but it doesn't stay. It doesn't have the weight it used to. It doesn't feel so heavy. You're not pushing that boulder up the mountain every single day. No, you're putting it down because it's not real. When you're part of the painting, when you're in the painting, you see one band of colors. You see one band of shapes, one wave, one frequency, one vibration, and you see it as God, you see it as holy, you see it as divine. And then whatever life throws at you, it all becomes comical. It all becomes good. Everything that happens now becomes good because it's something. Something happened. You're now experiencing something, a new problem, a new obstacle, a new challenge. That's what this life is. It's not about comfort. It's not about laying back and getting cozy. That is part of it. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of joy in that. There are many memories to be made in it. I can think of a few right now, but those are of a private matter, of course. In any case, that's when it gets really, really fun. Because whenever you feel an emotion, you're glad for it. You're happy whenever you're anxious. You're happy whenever you're sad. You're happy whenever you feel an intense nostalgia for a place that molded you as a child, a place that now looks like the Garden of Eden, like Paradise Lost, a place that you can never return to, but you'll forever long for. You're happy for all of it. You're happy to see people go. You're happy to see them come. You're happy to get good news and bad news. It's all life. And it's all what you're here to do, because if we didn't have a tragic flaw, if we didn't have an Achilles heel, if we didn't have something that could take us down or thwart our progress or corrupt our souls for that matter, there wouldn't be a lot of value in any of the actions we do here on earth. There wouldn't be a lot of meaning to it. If there is no challenge, there is no subsequent reward or value. I believe that's why Golden State was hated on so much during their dynasty. They were too good. They were unbeatable. Before Kevin Durant, they could be beaten. They had one kryptonite, one tragic flaw, and it was that if Kyrie and LeBron faced them, they might not make it out of there alive. Add Kevin Durant to the picture, and now all of a sudden, that's not the case anymore. You're not beating that team. Nobody was. Nobody will today. Nobody would in the past. That team was the best of all time. I don't care what the record says. Any team. 5v5. No matter how long the games are, no matter how long the series goes, Warriors every single time. And that's why I believe people hated on them, because there was no chance they were going to lose. There was no chance. If you know that Batman has no way of getting kryptonite to stop Superman in Superman versus Batman, the movie's not worth watching. Some would argue it's not worth watching anyway. I don't know. I've never seen it. But it's not worth watching if you know the result. Superman is going to clap Batman if he doesn't get kryptonite put in his face. Period. End of discussion. It's going to happen every single time. Batman is literally just a rich fuck in a suit. That's it. So what am I getting at with all this? Well, what I found in my life is that as I continue to melt more and more into the painting, as I continue to become one with the world, and I say become and melting because I'm not in it yet. If I was in it, I would be levitating. I'm not levitating, am I? I'm sitting on the couch. My ass is on the seat. The cushions can feel it. I'm not one of these Hindu monks. I can't do it yet. Maybe someday. I don't know. Don't like to set limitations, but I can tell you that I've gone into the painting a lot deeper than I realistically thought I could 7 years ago. I've gone a lot deeper than I thought I could. I knew it was possible and I knew I would get there, but there were doubts. I had a lot of them because I was still too close to it. My nose was pressed up against it. All I saw was my fear and my insecurities, and all I could replay in my head were conversations with people that let me down, events that at the time scarred me, left a pretty big mark on me. That's all I could focus on. And I didn't know then for sure that I was going to get here. I said it, and part of me believed it, like I said, but I had serious doubts. But I can tell you that if you can manage to pull it off and you can manage to walk this path, you're going to find treasure you've never thought possible of finding. You're going to find gold that is shinier and more valuable and more precious than anything you've been taught to believe is here on earth. You're going to find something incredible. You're going to feel good all the time, even when you feel like shit. You're going to feel meaning all the time, even when you don't want to do anything that comes along with that meaning. You're going to feel love, even whenever you are pissed the fuck off. And you're going to begin doing things that you never thought you would do, taking on responsibility you never thought you could take on, and shining in a way that you didn't think was possible when you were clouded in darkness. This is the path. This is the religious quest. This is the way. And I know it's the way because I've walked it. It's not the whole way. I'm not going to flesh it out with anything more specific because it's fairly broad. And I don't have all the answers. I'm not always right, but I'm always real. And I know that this has worked for me. Because I know that if you create a perfect paradox like God did, and you make life a circle, everything being cyclical, everything going round and round and round, coming back where it started every time. The only way to win is to go through. You connect both sides of the circle. And from there, you become the circle. That's what it is. You walk through it, and then you become it. And then all of the things that they taught you about in fairy tales, all the things you read, or all the things mom or dad read to you at night, perhaps in the daycare, wherever you heard it, they start to become true. You start to see them. You start to experience them. You start to live them. And then you don't care when it's all over. You don't have any regrets. You don't have any agenda or any timeline. You're just here in front of the camera, speaking to people I hope I get to meet. And people I hope gain value from this. God is a genius. And he needs to be revered at all costs. Because even if it all gets cut short, at least you get to go back to him. That being said, much love, peace. This is New Da Vinci. I'll see you in the next episode.